This is a CBC podcast.
Hi, I'm Doug Dirks, and this is the Homestretch Podcast for Wednesday, July 18th. Well, it's a little more than a week away, but the London Olympics are far from ready to go, according to security experts, and one British MP who's calling the situation a, quote, humiliating shambles. Extra police and the military have been called into the city because the company hired to provide most Olympic security services has admitted it is not as prepared as it anticipated. David Hyde is a security expert and the principal risk consultant at Hyde & Associates. He also teaches security management at the University of Calgary, and he joins me on the line now. Good afternoon.
Hi there, Doug. Thanks for having me.
Oh, David, what's your reaction to the scramble for extra security at the Olympics this week?
Well, I guess it's a mix of shock and awe, I guess, Doug. I mean, really my initial reaction here is that we have a greedy security contractor that's bitten off more than they can chew. We seem to have a naive Olympic organizing committee that set a framework for the staffing that was really destined to be problematic. And, the UK government that are trying to deflect some of the blame now, but they really could have been more engaged in this process to make sure that we didn't deal with what we are dealing with now.
Yeah, what went wrong with the plans to provide that security management? Because I understand the company that's involved has 60,000 employees worldwide.
Yeah, I mean, actually, they're the second or third largest employer, I believe. They have a massive roster of staff. The difficulty here is that this is a very unique event. The Olympics is a 17, 18-day event. Staff are required for about 3 weeks. And when you're looking at that kind of a labor pool to draw from, you're not going to find, your average employed people taking a leave of absence for a month. You're looking at students and the unemployed. And I think one of the problems that this company's dealt with is that they haven't really understood that labor pool very well and the time it takes to move these people through the pipeline.
And if you're talking about people who really aren't trained in the art of security, what does that say about the threat to London?
Well, I mean, and this is a concern. I mean, the one thing I will say about the United Kingdom is that they have quite a robust regulatory framework, and while that's good, this is what's causing part of the holdup, you see, Doug, because what's happening is it's taking an awful long time to scale all these staff through. They need to be, first of all, submit a paper application. There's 110,000 people that submitted applications. Then we have to have a review, a screening of those, and then only a certain number will pass that screening. 55,000 is the number, I believe. These people are going to get telephone calls. Then they have to come in for interviews. Then they have to have training schemes of different types, depending on the event they're going to work at. It could be a licensed event. There's different training. They may have to operate X-ray equipment. And then they have to get a criminal record check done by the police, and even after that, there are more steps. They have to get uniformed, and they have to get their schedule and Olympic credentials. So it's just a massive, massive undertaking, and what it appears to me has happened is that this company has really misjudged the time that it would take to scroll through these things. They actually call it, there's a term for it, like in the industry, called just-in-time phasing, and it means that they have to time it just right to be able to get the staff in place for the event. And they've messed up here, and we're probably a couple of weeks off on the timing. If the Olympics was in 2 or 3 weeks later, we might be okay.
So they'll be ready for the Paralympics, which follow the Olympic Games, but clearly not ready for these Olympics. So given all of that you've just told us, of course, and London being one of those cities that, much like New York and other global cities, could be a prime terrorist threat, what are the concerns there?
Well, I mean, certainly this is just fodder for anyone, and I, of course, don't want to feed into that fodder here on your airwaves. Sure. But this is fodder for people that are looking to do bad things, that are going to see potential weaknesses in security. This is the worst possible thing that we need. And, I mean, the reality is that there are a number now of police and military. It's probably reassuring that we have a much larger roster of trained military and police people that are going to be securing these games. But my impression of this is that by the time the games start, that this process will be sufficiently caught up that I reckon that the main gaps, the main priority areas are going to be covered. I don't see them going wanting for either security, police, or the military. But I'll tell you, this is obviously, the Olympics and the UK are going to live on. this security company has a bit of a black eye here, and my concern is how that's going to impact the broader security industry. This company operates in Canada, and we're in a broader security industry that's looking at privatization of some policing functions, and this is only going to slow that down, I think, when you see this kind of a misstep here.
Did we see similar problems in Vancouver 2 years ago?
We didn't. It was obviously a much smaller scale event. There were a bit of controversy around different aspects of that in terms of who the contract was provided to, Doug, on that. But they did have adequate staffing. From the job that I've seen. In fact, there have been comments made from a few staff that are slated to work at these London games that said, we worked in Vancouver and it was much, much better there, and the organization was better. So I'd have to say that certainly in Vancouver, the groups working there did a pretty good job, but it was a much smaller scale event in terms of numbers.
Right, Winter Games, I mean, we're looking at Sochi in 2014, in Russia, and then in 2016, it's in Brazil. So what do you think policymakers in future Olympic host cities can learn from this mess?
Well, I mean, I think there's two or three key takeaways here. The first thing is that you just don't sole source a contract for 10,500 private security guards. You must, to be resilient here, you must look at least 2 to 3, probably 4 different providers. So if you have one that can't make the numbers, the other ones can make it up. But you also need to have realistic planning from the beginning. This Olympic Committee originally said they wanted 2,000 people, and they based that estimation on numbers used at the 2002 Manchester Commonwealth Games and the Turin Winter Olympics. So, I mean, right out of the gate, you've got a farcical number of security guards over a year ago that were pegged in the contract. And then quite late in the game, the Olympic Committee suddenly says, we want 5 times that. And the security company, foolishly, in my view, agreed to provide those. So next time around, in my opinion, let's get more security providers involved. Let's incentivize these security people and give them a reason to want to work at these games. We shouldn't be hiring from a pool of the unemployed and students. We should be finding ways to incentivize motivated security professionals that are going to actually want to be there and going to want to do the right job.
David, thanks for doing this afternoon.
Anytime, Doug. Have a great day.
You too. David Hyde is a security expert and the principal risk consultant at Hyde & Associates. He also teaches security management at the University of Calgary.